My good, Oksana. I carried my son for 9 months. I spent my resources, my youth, my health on him. Therefore, I have the right to take his entire salary from him. And also, if necessary, if I need to, I will take all his organs. There is one category of women that I am afraid of to the point of shaking in my knees, although I am raising my son on my own. These are shadows, silently gliding behind their sons who are 30 years old or even older, invisibly present even in their marital bedroom. And I decided that this topic deserves a separate video. So today, we will dissect a terrible social epidemic that stifles maternal love, turning men into houseplants and their wives into eternal rivals for the right to decide what soup will be for dinner. Why are you and I? It's so easy to fall into this trap. And how not to become the kind of mother-in-law from jokes, the one who ruins the life of the person dearest to you. That's what our very honest and open conversation is about today. And believe me, the ending of this story will make you look at your own embrace in a completely different way. But before we get to the stories, I want this video to become a personal exploration for you. Right now, I have a psychological test of 5 questions, and they will be woven into our conversation. Our discussion and your answers to these questions will show what stage of separation you are at. Are you truly wise, a source of support, or an unwitting invader of someone else's territory? Just count how many times you honestly answer yes, and at the end, I'll give you an explanation that will be a cold shower for many. But it's exactly this that will show the path to freedom for you as well, and for your son. Of course, if you have a certain level of self-awareness, you'll understand everything and try to make a change. But if your little boy, your pride and joy, is the center of your universe and you can't see or know anything beyond him, then this test probably won't help you because you'll keep living in the same position you and your son are in now. Let's start with a story. A story that literally blew up my social media. A friend of mine, let's call her Marina, is getting married. They're a beautiful couple, both 30 with careers and goals, pretty much like a lot of people. And a week before the wedding, her future mother-in-law gives them a set of bed linens as a gift. It would seem like such a sweet, symbolic gesture. But the catch is that these are the sheets her son slept on when he was 5, with some little bears on. And then, with the sweetest smile, she says, "Marina, he only falls asleep soundly on these. So make sure you keep an eye on that." At that moment, the personal space of this new, just-formed family collapsed. And of course, that's the first red flag. Because when caring turns into marking territory, that's when every daughter-in-law's worst fear begins. I look at my own son and I break out in a cold sweat. Could it be that one day I'll decide, I don't know, the color of a sheep? Better than the woman he chooses to be his wife and the mother of his future children. Here, we're going to note down the first question of our test. Has it ever happened? Well, if you're already a mother with an adult son, or honestly, even those with a daughter can relate to this too. Has it ever happened that you imposed your choices on your son or his partner? Household choices? Dishes, curtains, groceries. You truly believe you know better what's convenient for them, and completely ignoring your attempts to create comfort in their own way. If you recognized yourself in this, give yourself 1 point. Let's admit it, the image of the Holy Mother has been elevated. In our society, it's been raised to such an absolute that any separation feels like betrayal. We're used to the idea that a mother gives her whole self without holding anything back, a kind of martyr. But when the child grows up, what's left behind is a black hole, which many try to fill with their son's life. This looks like endless phone calls. Have you eaten? Did you have something to eat? Checking how often you clean the baseboards and manipulating with health concerns. We call it love, but let's be honest. It's psychological poaching. We go hunting for our children's emotions because we never learned how to generate our own. And the scariest part is that it all happens under the guise of absolute goodness. And from here comes the second question. Do you feel a dull resentment, irritation, or sudden sense of uselessness inside when you find out your son spent the weekend having a great time without you? And he didn't even think it was necessary to call you and check in. Even worse, he didn't invite you to join him and his friends. It's interesting to watch how the rhetoric changes. At first, I just help it out. Then it's, if not me, then who? And in the end, she doesn't appreciate him the way I do. There's no room for growth in this triangle, but there's plenty of hidden aggression. We compete with our daughters-in-law, not realizing that there are no winners in this battle. If you win, you end up with a broken man, an immature man, and if you lose, you're left feeling resentful. But in reality, there's a third way, one that requires acceptance. Your child doesn't belong to you, even if you gave birth to him. Why are we so afraid of his independence? The answer is pretty prickly. We're afraid of becoming unnecessary. When our son holds another woman's hand, our own hands suddenly feel empty. And instead of picking up a book or a plane ticket, we try to squeeze ourselves into their space and become the third wheel. But it doesn't feel to us like we're the odd one out. And that leads to yet another question. I think this is the most honest question. Have you ever used your own well-being, say a sudden spike in blood pressure, tears, or a heartache, as the only way to make your son change his plans and come to you? Or just to get him to pay attention to you, even if it means neglecting his own affairs or his family? Very often, we confuse everyday wisdom with a desire for total control. Wisdom, as I see it, is giving a person the right to make mistakes while remaining a quiet harbor, not a coast guard with a megaphone. Control is an attempt to turn your son's life into a soft playpen where it's impossible to learn how to walk. I look at 30-year-old teenagers who still consult their moms about buying a car, or even about the color of their bathroom tiles. It makes me uncomfortable. But if you're single, if you don't have a wife or a girlfriend, well, that's one thing. But if you're married, maybe you should be consulting your wife instead? That's not closeness, that's an umbilical cord. An umbilical cord that's turned into a noose. And the irony is, the tighter we hold on, the more people want to run away from us. Many people justify this by calling it a mother's intuition and instinct. Like, that girl isn't right for him. Her skirt's too short, her laugh is too loud, she doesn't make borscht the way grandma did. Or, she's not good enough for him. He deserves someone better. Although very often, they don't even know themselves who would actually be good enough for him. If their son chose her to be his wife, his life partner, then that means he believes they are a match for each other, and it doesn't matter anymore what other people think. Especially not what mom thinks. The main thing is happiness. And honestly, it's not really about the borscht. Mom is a symbol of his independence. She is proof that her son's world no longer revolves around our kitchen. That's when the strategist in us starts to wake up. After all, we're women. We don't go looking for conflict. We act much more gracefully. Couple of sighs. A hand pressed to the heart at just the right moment and a phrase. Go ahead, I'll manage this blood pressure on my own somehow. This is the theater of the native actress, where we are both the scriptwriter and, most importantly, the suffering heroine. By depriving our son of the right to solve problems without our involvement, we're actually castrating his will. At 40, he'll come to complain about his mean wife never having grown up. Behind all these dramas is the fear of silence and an empty apartment. And that's exactly why grown women who already have adult children, doesn't matter if it's a son or a daughter, can start acting like little old ladies. And now question number 4. Is your son becoming your psychological husband? Yes, don't be surprised. This is a very common phenomenon. Do you share with him the details of your arguments with your partner? Do you complain to him about loneliness or financial problems? Do you expect that very same emotional support from him? The kind you would normally ask from a male partner, not from a child. I can admit that in some cases, of course, you might tell your son about something his father did, share your emotions and feelings. Of course, we're all human. But when this becomes the constant mode, that's not really okay, because it feels like someone is demanding help from you. Help that, honestly, you're not even capable of giving to that person. Let's do an experiment. Now, imagine your son says, "Mom, we're moving to the other side of the world. I'll call you once a month." How would you feel? Proud or absolutely terrified? If it's the latter, then your love has become a prison. Yes, talking just once a month is definitely not much, especially if there's a close emotional bond between parent and child. But let's not forget, your son is no longer part of your family. He has his own now. We're just supporting characters in his life now. We measure value by self-sacrifice. I gave up my life for him. But this bill we present for payment 20 years later, that's an impossible debt. The child never asked for these sacrifices. In fact, he didn't even ask to be born. It's unfair to demand a lifelong emotional rent. The hierarchy changes. Now his priority is the woman he chose. If we don't accept this, we become destroyers. An overbearing mother turns her golden boy into a liar. He ends up living a double life, and he doesn't know which side to choose. If a man is immature, if he's foolish and childish, he doesn't even realize that his wife's side is more important. Separation begins the first time we let go of his hand in the sandbox. But at the stage of marriage, many people experience a systemic failure. We compete in everyday life, we forget that. We know him as a child, but we don't know him at all. As a man, as a husband, as the head of the family. There are areas of life where mothers are not allowed to enter. And by breaking down that door, we violate the laws of mental health. And many mothers-in-law completely forget how they themselves suffered from their so-called second mothers, from their own mothers-in-law. It's collective amnesia. Maybe they want to take revenge for what they went through in their youth, from their own mothers-in-law. But is the young woman who joined the family really to blame? Is she to blame for the fact that the two people couldn't build a normal relationship with each other? We turn daughters-in-law into targets for subtle criticism. And when a son chooses a wife, we cry about his ingratitude, even though that's the only healthy choice. That's how it should be. Otherwise, what's the point of starting a family and choosing a mother for your children? Yes, in some ways, it really hurts a mother's pride. As a mother of a son, I understand all of this perfectly well. On one hand, I get it, but on the other hand, common sense should prevail. I even told my husband recently, if our child grows up and I start acting like a toxic mother-in-law, just give me a kick, this old lady, and send me far away somewhere so I can get over myself, because I know that's just not normal at all. Yeah, and honestly, why would I want to be like that? I don't live only for my child's life. I have plenty of my own personal desires and interests. And really, the main reason why a mother-in-law starts a toxic war against her daughter-in-law and starts suffocating her son with so-called love, the main reason is when she doesn't have her own interests or needs outside of her needs for her son. Your success as a mother is measured by how easily your child can get by without you. That's why I try to teach my child to be independent. Even though he's still quite young, I don't keep him tied to my apron strings. And now, I'd like to ask you the final 5th question of the test. Can you, right now, without thinking, name 3 of your own personal goals, hobbies, or dreams? Ones that have absolutely nothing to do with your son's achievement, daily life, or plans. If your mind goes blank, that's a major SOS signal. Be careful, save yourself, and fix this mistake. I often wonder what kind of mother-in-law I'll be. My main safeguard is having my own life. The more interests I have, the safer it is. For my son and for my husband, for my whole family. A smart mom is always a busy mom. But keep things separate. Not overwhelmed, just busy. You need to learn how to close the door to their apartment and their problems. And ideally, you shouldn't even have a key to those apartments. True love is staying home, minding your own business, and giving him the right to his own experience. If he asks for advice, you can give it. If he doesn't ask, don't butt in. Why take on all that negativity yourself? You'll end up being the one to blame anyway. And most likely, they won't listen to you anyway. And that's exactly how it should be. Everyone needs to learn from their own mistakes and not repeat the mistakes of others. Repeat it like a mantra. My son doesn't owe me anything. He doesn't have to entertain me in my old age or live according to my script. He just needs to be happy. That's the best gift my child can give me. If his happiness means seeing me only twice a year, then I guess I should smile, accept it, and say, I'm proud of you. It hurts. It takes courage, but that's the only way the thread of trust doesn't break. We can't keep our child by our side forever, constantly. If he wants to move to the other side of the world, then so be it. It's a paradox. The more space you give a man, the more he wants to come back to it. If you've already had a few husbands, you definitely know what I'm talking about. Because that's one of the standard patterns in male psychology. Not for long. It's because being with you feels calm and easy. You become not a warden, but an inspiration. Being the mother of a son is a real test of maturity. We teach him how to walk. Then we have to teach him how to walk away from us. And that's the ultimate justice. We are raising a person for the world. If he knows how to love another woman, take responsibility for himself, for his actions, for his woman, even if she has children from previous marriages, and for them too. Wonderful, we've done our job. And our goal is not to be the only woman in his life, but to teach him to respect women in general. But now comes the moment of truth. This might be the reason you listen to this video all the way to the end. Let's go over the results of our test together. Basically, if you answered yes to everything, then each yes is worth 1 point. And if you have 0 or 1 yes, then you are a rare example of an emotionally healthy mom. Be proud of yourself. You know how to love without smothering. You've kept your own identity, and that's exactly why your son will come back to you for advice. On its own. Not because he's just used to doing it, not because you taught him to or made him dependent on you, but out of respect. Not out of fear of hurting you. If you have 2 or 3 yes answers, you're in a risky situation. You're both at a dangerous turning point. The umbilical cords are still pulsing and making it hard for your son to breathe. Keep that in mind. You're trying to control the situation out of anxiety, but that anxiety is your own selfishness. That's a road to nowhere. Your job, urgently, really, as a top priority, is to shift your focus to yourself before your care turns into a war. If you have 4 or 5 points, meaning you answered yes to those questions, admit it to yourself. Your love has become a prison. You're not living your own life, but your child's life. That's very painful to hear, but it's the truth. And most likely, you don't have personal interests because if you did, you probably wouldn't be living your son's life. You risk ending up alone precisely because you're so afraid of being alone. What's the direct benefit for you in realizing this? When you let go, a miracle happens. You give your son his masculine strength, his masculine energy. You give him the chance to feel like the head of the family, not just an appendage who listens to adults and elders. Psychologists have long since proven this. Men whose mothers don't make decisions for them are twice as successful in their careers and in business. They don't have an internal conflict. They don't waste energy fighting with you. As a result, you don't end up with a golden boy. You get a strong ally. And you finally get the right to your own life, where you're not just an attachment to your child, but a person in your own right. Dear moms, take a look at your hands. If you're desperately gripping the reins of your adult son's life, try loosening your hold. Yeah, at first it'll be really scary and hard, and you'll feel a real ache in your chest from the emptiness. But life will put something new into your freed hands. Your own meaning, your hobbies, your peace of mind. After all, life doesn't end when your kids grow up. Finally, it becomes yours, where you truly belong to no one but yourself. A son will love a self-sufficient mom even more than one who sacrificed herself. Let's choose to be reasonable, so our children can freely choose their own lives. We've made up the myth that anxiety equals love. If I worry, if I'm anxious, that means I love more deeply. I'm not just worrying for no reason. What if I don't call 5 times a day? Does that make me a bad mother? But that's just anxiety. It's anxiety that's really about our own need for hyper-control and overprotection. We try to quiet our inner noise by interfering in someone else's life. It's like trying to tune someone else's piano when your own orchestra is out of tune. We're afraid that without us, his life will just fall apart. But even if it does, that'll be his own honest failure, and he'll come out of it a man. By patching up the walls with our authority, we leave him living in a fake world. Remember your child's first steps? We were there to catch them, but they walked on their own. So why are we now trying to walk instead of him? That's the ultimate lack of trust. That's what we're communicating. I don't believe you can handle it. A man grows where there's a challenge. Where mom takes care of all my problems, there's no need to worry. All that grows there is a child with a beard. Imagine your daughter-in-law is an ally. She's taken on part of your burden. Overcome the urge to look for flaws, and your world will become much cozier once you stop viewing her through a scope. If a man has stopped telling you every detail, that's a celebration of mental health. He should have his secrets. That's a sign of strong boundaries. And a person with boundaries, believe me, will definitely succeed because they know how to say no to circumstances. The period after the kids leave is, in a way, a golden time. Remember what you used to dream about? What did you dream about before porridge and bedtime stories? A self-fulfilled person commands respect, while a victim only inspires guilt. Guilt is the worst glue for a family. Learn to distinguish between helping and intruding, because helping is when you're asked. But intruding is when you just water the plants and rearrange the furniture without being asked. That's a form of soft violence. Ask yourself, did anyone ask me to do this? If not, focus on your own home. Let them eat the wrong food. Let them make their own personal mistakes. Our love should be like the sod. It should warm, not burn. We are the foundation. The foundation doesn't climb up to check the curtains on the roof. It just holds up the building. I believe that together we will break the cycle of suffocating mothers. Our value doesn't end with motherhood. We are, in a way, life itself. When we realize this, the fear of losing a son disappears because you can't lose what doesn't belong to you. What remains is the joy for a wonderful man. A man whose creation you were a part of. Joy in the fact that this wonderful man became the husband of a girl, a woman who got lucky. And next time you feel like giving advice, just buy yourself a coffee instead. The best gift you can give your adult child is your own happy life, one where they don't have to be your entertainer. So that's the interesting topic we ended up with today. I invite you to write in the comments how many times you answered yes. How many did you get? Was there a question that really struck a chord with you? Have you ever had a situation in your life like the ones I described in this video? I suggest we create an honest space of support in the comments. Thanks for watching this conversation all the way to the end. Be sure to protect your boundaries. They make love stronger. See you in our next episodes, where we'll keep discussing the things people usually stay silent about.